Hello U-Force, this is Tito, your team coach. Due to the COVID-19 quarantine, we're going to be working remotely for this term. And that means that most of the teamwork you will be doing is going to be online. In this video, I'm going to give you 9 key points that you can follow to become successful in online collaboration as a team. But before we get into that, it is important to be aware that there are 2 ways you can communicate online, and each of them serves a purpose. So understanding how and when to use each is going to set your online collaboration apart from most teams. Okay, so what are those forms of communication? One of them is synchronous communication. Synchronous communication relates to every form of communication that happens in real time. It is a situation in which responses can occur immediately. For example, video conferences and group calls in apps like Skype, Google Hangouts, WhatsApp, and WeChat. Now, the second form of online communication is asynchronous communication. Asynchronous communication relates to every form of communication that doesn't happen in real time. It is a situation in which responses can occur intermittently. For example, emails, text messages, and messaging apps. Ideally, in a remote team, you want to use a mix of both. Okay, now that we talked about our 2 main types of online communication, let's head to our 9 key points for online collaboration success. Number 1. Schedule team meetings to understand what you have to do. When you are working remotely, it is very likely that asynchronous messages will make up for most of your communication. However, if you wish to be successful, your team must also schedule meetings to make sure everyone is on the same page about what they have to do and what their next step should be. This extra step towards mutual understanding will reduce the likelihood of future conflicts and time wasted. Number 2. Plan ahead. Given that you are working remotely and your teammates can be literally anywhere, planning is essential for remote team success. Adopt the culture of sharing your calendar with each other and plan how the term is going to look like for your team. Look for time slots that work for everyone in your team to schedule team meetings and make them a priority. That way, your teammates are confident that everyone will show up. Also, get in the habit of coming prepared for every team meeting. If you're going to be discussing an article, read it beforehand. If you're going to need to write stuff down, bring a notepad or have your laptop close to you. Lastly, before video calling, try to find a spot where you won't be disturbed or distracted very often. By planning ahead, you are able to create a calendar that is inclusive to all your team members and will also make your team meetings much more time efficient. And speaking of time efficient, let's talk about point number 3. Number 3, make it intentional. Since you will not be spending a lot of time together as a team, you have to make sure that the time you do spend with each other is spent efficiently. And the way you do that is by having an agenda for every meeting. So how do you create an agenda? You can start by putting down on a piece of paper or a shared document how much time you have for that specific meetings. For example, 60 minutes. Then, split that time between the topics you have to talk about. In our 60-minute example, let's say you have to talk about topics A, B, and C. Start by discussing which ones should be prioritized and allocate the time for each accordingly. You can say, from minute 0 to minute 20, we will talk about topic A. And then from minute 20 to minute 55, we're going to talk about topic B because that's the hardest. And then we can use whatever time we have left to talk about topic C because that's very trivial. Now, if you reach minute 55 and you still haven't finished talking about topic B, that's okay. You can always adjust the agenda and tweak it on the go. The point of having an agenda is to keep your team focused on your tasks, not to be an extra document that can make you anxious. And it also allows you to keep track of how efficient your team meetings actually are. And lastly, you also want to make sure you assign someone to keep track of the time, bring your team back to the topic, or call for an agenda adjustment if needed. And that brings us to our next key point. Number 4. Assign a facilitator for every meeting. Having a facilitator will not only help your team to stay on track with your agenda and keep your meetings efficient, but they also invite conversation, opinions, and insights from all team members. Facilitators are supposed to take the knowledge present in the room and focus it, either on a whiteboard, a shared document, or a piece of paper for the team to see. When assigning a facilitator, you can choose the same person every time, or you can rotate the facilitator role for each of your meetings. Having an assigned facilitator also removes the awkwardness when the team needs to be nudged if the conversation gets off topic, because the facilitators know that that's the attitude that the team is expecting of them. Number 5. Be clear on an acceptable communication response time. When working in a remote team, we get to make our own work schedule for the most part. And as a consequence, teammates might be living lives that are not necessarily in sync with the rest of the team. For example, if Jane is living in Athens while Anthony is living in San Francisco, one of them might be waking up while the other is going to sleep. So if Jane sends Anthony a message, she might need to wait 8 hours for a reply, which can be very frustrating if she's expecting a quick answer. A tactic your team can use to avoid that frustration is to agree on an acceptable communication response time. And that is as simple as having a quick chat with everyone in your team and coming up with a mutual agreement. What works for everyone? 8 hours? 16? 24? 36? Although there is not really a right answer, I would personally recommend you to keep it up to 24 hours, as it allows for each of you to choose a convenient time during your day to reply to your teammates. Number 6. Agree on a shared communication tool that everybody is able to use. When working remotely, the interface that you use and how proficient your teammates are in using it is almost as important as the content you're going to discuss. There are plenty of communication apps to choose from. You can use Slack, WhatsApp, Telegram, WeChat, Google Hangouts, Skype, Discord. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure you choose one that your teammates are comfortable using and proficient at, as it will avoid disruption and miscommunication in your conversations. Number 7. Be transparent with your team. All the information shared in a team must go to all the team members. At Royal Roads, we encourage the shared leadership model, and that implies that there are no mandatory fixed hierarchies in your team. Therefore, no information regarding your assignments should be withheld from your teammates. Enforcing a culture of transparency fosters trust and decreases the probability of gossip and misalignment in your team. Number 8. Make use of decision-making processes. When working in your assignments, it is likely that your team will be trying to solve complex problems. In order to do that, you must find a way of thinking and coming to a decision together. Whether you want to use the SUIT approach, the share, understand, integrate, and team decision model, which can be found in greater detail in our Teams Work website, or you want to use a digital collaboration tool like Google Jamboard, or even if you simply want to use a quick voting system, you need to make sure that the decision-making process you use was agreed upon previously with your teammates. Number 9. Monitor yourself and your teammates' emotional states. Make time in your meetings for personal check-ins. Before the meeting starts, the facilitator can ask each of the team members, "How are you?" And the answer should not be "fine, thanks," but rather a quick summary of what is going on through that person's head. Then the facilitator can thank that person for sharing and move on to the next one. By simply listening to what the teammates have to say, the team is creating a culture of peer support, which is proven to boost the productivity and engagement of its members. Alright guys, this is going to be it for this video. You already know this, but if you have any questions or need support for your team, please check the team coaching website at teamswork.royalroads.ca. Unfortunately, I won't be coaching you any longer after May. So if you need direct assistance from a team coach, you can send a direct email to teamcoaching@royalroads.ca, and a team coach will be right in touch with you. Thank you for listening and good luck.